Hello, welcome to our quick 15-minute webinar on managing stress. I am Lona Smart, and I will be facilitating the webinar today. My hope for this session is to provide you a quick break from your day-to-day, just a quick break away, and to leave you with a few strategies to help you manage stress. Stress is absolutely a normal part of life. However, I think with our current situation, it's pushing us and challenging us all in completely different ways. Even the most resilient people I know are feeling the weight of the world right now. None of us have a playbook for how we should or shouldn't respond. So think about the last time that you felt really stressed or overwhelmed. Maybe you feel that way right now while you're listening. Maybe you felt that way yesterday. How did you respond? We all respond a little different. Some of us retreat within ourselves. Some of us feel really overwhelmed and unable to move forward, while other people just jump into action and they start fixing everything in sight. As I mentioned before, there's no right or wrong way to respond. How you feel when you're stressed is how you feel. We need to feel all the feelings. We need to acknowledge that stress that we're feeling, but we just don't want to get stuck there, unable to be able to move forward or to take action or to help out those that need it. So people have three typical responses to stress. It falls into one of three categories. It's a fight, flight, or freeze scenario. If your gut reaction is the fight response, you might find yourself feeling more competitive, aggressive, or maybe even really defensive. You know, if somebody approaches you with something or challenges you on something, your body is just constantly ready to fight within the context of the situation. If you lean more towards the flight response, you may seek to avoid or just escape completely or withdraw. And the last one, if you tend to freeze, you may feel overwhelmed and unable to take action on anything at all. At the same time, you might become hypervigilant, right? Kind of really paying attention and thinking, worrying about everything going on around you. We've all heard for years that stress is a negative thing. I know I grew up hearing that message that stress causes all kinds of health problems like heart attacks or a weakened immune system. The whole concept is stress is bad, you should avoid stress. However, that's not even possible, right? The worlds we live in are stressful. And if you care about the things around you, you know, your family, your friends, your work, then you're going to feel stressed out every once in a while. The good news is that more recent research has actually discovered that it's not stress itself that causes health problems. It's actually our beliefs about stress, meaning when we experience stress, our thoughts and our mindset and how we process that stress can actually change how your body physically responds to that stress. So people who tend to think about stress more like a challenge rather than a threat have less anxiety and fewer negative physical symptoms related to stress. That sounds easier said than done though, right? How do you even begin to do that? How do you change how you think about stress or your mindset about stress? So I'm going to give you an analogy here. Have you ever picked up an object and it was heavier than you thought it was, right? So you maybe grabbed a sack and it was much heavier than you initially thought. And what happens, right? You don't drop it. You don't drop that object. Your body adjusts. You know, it kind of takes you a minute, but you figure it out. Our mind is actually capable of the same thing. Our minds can adjust too when we're dealing with something that is more stressful or mentally or emotionally heavier than what we thought it was going to be. We are incredibly resilient. Just like we would work out our just like we would work out our bodies and exercise to build up our muscles, we need to work on our mindset as well. We need to intentionally work on our mindset so that we can develop one that is more resilient in stressful situations. So how do you do that, right? Does anybody remember these devices? It's a tape recorder. When I think of tape recorder, this is the image that pops into my brain. We all have our own internal tape recorder that plays messages over and over in our head. When we feel stressed out and overwhelmed, it can help to actually sit back and assess what messages you are repeating to yourself over and over. What is your internal tape recorder? Does your internal tape recorder increase the level of stress, or does it help us manage the stress? So are your thoughts making you more anxious, or are they helping you work through that stress? We're going to try this. So close your eyes and envision that in one hand, you're holding an ice cream cone, and in the other, you're holding a small potted cactus. Which one would you want to take a bite of? Well, obviously, we want to eat the ice cream. We would bite the ice cream cone, not the cactus. And if you Think about positive thoughts being the ice cream cone and your negative thoughts being like a cactus. Which one are you feeding your brain, right? You would never ever eat a cactus, but we don't consider how many negative, unhelpful thoughts we allow ourselves to consume on a daily basis. If you find yourself repeating more negative thoughts, you'll want to reframe them to something that's more healthy until it becomes automatic. You repeat it over and over until it becomes automatic. So here's an example. A negative thought is, my situation or this situation is the worst thing that could possibly happen. That's a cactus thought. The positive thought, on the other hand, is changing it and saying instead, this is a tough situation, but I know that it's only temporary and I will get through it. So we're still acknowledging the fact that it's stressful. We're not dismissing that. We know it's a tough situation, but we're also acknowledging the fact that it's temporary and that we can, in fact, get through it. The second thing we can do to kind of help build our resiliency in stressful situations is to make sure we're focusing on things that we have control over instead of focusing on things that we don't have any control over. So things within your control include your actions, your behaviors, and the decisions that you make. We cannot control the decisions of other people, including the government, right? The decisions the government's making, or the fact that the coronavirus has changed the way that we have to operate right now. You also may not be able to control that some of your favorite pastime activities are canceled, but you can control what you choose to do with your time. So maybe you try something new, pick up a new hobby, or use this time to spend more time with your family inside your home. The third thing I want to leave you with today is just some thoughts about what rituals that you have. Are they helpful or hurtful? So during stressful times, many of us, myself included, can pick up some bad habits or some negative coping mechanisms. Things like eating too much or spending too much time on the couch watching your favorite TV shows. We should take a look at what habits and behaviors we currently have and try to make better choices that support our overall health and well-being. So I have several of them listed here. A couple of them are pretty common ones, right? Like exercising regularly, maybe like taking a walk, making sure we're eating healthy foods that actually help us feel better, getting enough rest. The next one there, taking 15, 20 minutes a day just of alone time actually can help us work on the first couple of things that I talked about, which is assessing the balance of positive, negative thoughts that you're having, as well as evaluating the things that you have control on and making some positive choices about the things that we do have control on over versus wasting our energy on things that we don't have any control over. You could also use that time to read something positive or set some small daily goals. Something I have personally started doing that's helpful is setting 2 or 3 things every day that I want to accomplish. That actually helps when I accomplish those things. It helps reduce the level of stress that I feel and makes me feel like I'm making some progress and moving forward and heading in the right direction, which are all good things for our well-being. The last one is, I think we're all kind of evaluating our routines and what is working for us and what is not. I would encourage you to simplify your routine, right? Kind of minimize the things that you're doing as best as you can so you can focus on the important things. Really looking at, are there certain things that you were doing in the past that really aren't that efficient or helpful? The last thing here I want to talk about is leadership, if you're leading a team. So if you've ever been on a plane and experienced turbulence, the first thing that people do is they look to the flight attendant. They want to know how the flight attendant is reacting when they experience turbulence. And depending on the reaction of the flight attendant, the passengers either relax back into whatever they were doing before, or they might begin to panic. In the same way, if you're leading a team, in times of crisis, your teams are looking to you to decide how they should react. Should they panic or will everything be okay? So I want to wrap up this session with just a few reminders of what we should be intentionally doing as leaders to help ease the stress that our teams may be feeling during these challenging times. Our team members, like all humans, desire to feel important, feel appreciated, and to feel competent. If we can foster these 3 things within our teams, we can actually reduce their stress and build our team members' resiliency in difficult times. The first one, to help our team members to feel important, they need to know that they are contributing to the team, to the customer, or the overall goals and purpose of the organization. Remind your team that what they are doing is really important and it's valuable. Next, to help your team members feel appreciated, thank them regularly for the work that they do, not just the big stuff, the little things too. You may even be asking your team to do more with less right now and to work under stressful situation or stressful times. Make sure you acknowledge this and tell them how much you appreciate it. Last, help build your team's confidence, right? Verbalize that you believe that they have the skills and abilities to make it through this time. Reassure them that they have made it through difficult times in the past, and together we will get through this one as well. Stress is absolutely a normal part of life, and maybe even more so during these challenging times. However, focus on the things that you have control over, remind yourself of positive things that are happening right now, and find healthy, productive things you can add to your routine that help you manage your stress a little bit more. So we will be producing additional webinars every few weeks in hopes of being a resource for you and your team. We'll get this webinar posted on our resource page as well. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you for joining me today.